dedicated to southern and eastern Kentucky. This is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. The aftermath of Kentucky's election is being felt across the state. Governor Bevin held a news conference just moments ago. This was just after his campaign requested a formal recanvass. However, Andy Beshear is moving forward with transition plans. WYMT's Will Puckett and Connor James join us now from Frankfort with what both sides have to say. Guys.
Steve, good evening from a chilly outside of the governor's mansion. And Connor, it was a quick news conference from the governor touching on a host of topics, but again, referencing something that he mentioned last night in his speech at the Republican election night party. He wants to make sure that this process is done by the law so the Kentucky people can get what they voted for.
Definitely, and you heard him while he was doing that speech, calling out the Secretary of State, saying he's unsure of everything because of how quickly she called that election, even calling out some of the stuff her father has been accused of, well, not accused of, sentenced for, essentially. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He mentioned that she has a shady past along with her father, and he even went as far to say that they have recognized a few irregularities, specifically in Jefferson County, that Attorney General and now Governor-elect Andy Beshear dominated last night.
What we know is that there really are a number of significant irregularities, the specifics of which we're in the process of getting affidavits and other information that will help us to get a better understanding of what did or did not happen. Those will be forthcoming in the days ahead. But that's the cart getting in front of the horse, because none of this will really be followed through on until after the recanvassing process.
Next Thursday is when that recanvass will happen. Again, everybody's sort of waiting on pins and needles to see what happens. He needs roughly 5,000 votes, Connor, to change the tide in his favor.
Bevin also did say to the Beshear camp to continue moving on with the transition process and everything that entails, and I don't think Beshear will have a problem with that. As of earlier today, when he held his news conference in Louisville, he said to him, this election was over.
Well, I'm here today to announce a transition. And we can only have a transition because the election is over. But we are excited to move into this governance stage because we believe that we can put together a leadership team, not just for a transition, but for a cabinet that can serve all Kentuckians.
Now, during that conference, Will, he also named his transition chair, J. Michael Brown. So obviously that Beshear camp has no problems with getting ahead with that transition phase.
Yeah, you mentioned that Governor Bevin said that he should move on with that transition campaign to make sure that it goes as flawlessly as possible. One thing to note, last night the governor never mentioned Andy Beshear by name. Tonight, he still has yet to mention Andy Beshear by name as the possible next governor here in Kentucky. He did go as far this time to say the Attorney General. We'll have much more from Governor Bevin's news conference tonight and Andy Beshear's news conference earlier for today. But for now, we'll send it back to you in studio. Steve, he's Connor James. I'm Will Puckett at the governor's mansion in Frankfort.
Will, real quick, I know the governor did not take any questions. We carried the news conference live. He didn't cite any specific evidence of voting irregularities, correct?
He threw out a couple of ideas that they have seen as far as some machines in Jefferson County not working.
No specific details, though,
yeah,
really.
No specific details, no facts to back that up. He said one of the only things that he mentioned is that machines were malfunctioning in Jefferson County.
A county Beshear did incredibly well.
Dominated last night, and he had said that they had ended up taking paper ballots, throwing them into a box, and so that was one of the things. He said there were a handful, but Steve, they don't have any solid evidence that they're giving right now. He said what he said in this news conference was everything that they know at the time being. That's why he didn't take any questions.
All right. Well, we'll wait for the recanvass a week from tomorrow. Will and Connor, thank you very much. We'll hear from you again at 6 o'clock. With Republicans sweeping down ticket races and Governor Bevin appearing to have lost, some wonder what the future looks like for the Republican Party. WIMT's Madison Pergram sat down with a political science professor to dig deeper into last night's results.
Anticipation was building Tuesday night for both Democrats and Republicans as results started to roll in, specifically eyeing the gubernatorial race.
I had an idea that it was going to be a pretty close race. I didn't realize it was going to be that close. Polling weeks before the election indicated that Bevin was going to win by a comfortable margin.
Stephen Baraka is a professor of political science at Eastern Kentucky University. He says the governor's race came down to one thing.
The other side, opposition to Bevin, was just more motivated.
Motivated by several issues shared by many.
Governor Bevin pursued a pretty conservative and aggressive policy agenda with pension reforms and on social issues as well. And so I think it was a given that he was going to generate some opposition.
But he says it also suggests it is about more than policies.
The fact that the Attorney General of the same party got 70,000 more votes than the governor got really suggests that this was somewhat personal.
And looking at the results from the rest of the statewide ticket, Baraka says Republicans have something to look forward to.
But it's a good sign to have a farm team to be working from for the future for the party. And that presents a challenge for the Democrats.
All with eyes now looking towards the future. Madison Pergram, WYMT Mountain News.
Well, President Trump and Vice President Mike Pence did everything they could to help Governor Bevin's re-election bid. Some believe his loss, along with other election night losses by Republicans nationwide, could spell trouble for the president's own 2020 re-election bid. Today we heard from Mark Lauder, President Trump's 2020 Director of Strategic Communications, on how Governor Bevin's failed bid might impact his campaign.
These governor's races, they're very important, but from a state perspective, but when it comes to the national elections, they don't matter that much. I don't think any of those blue states with Republican governors are going to suddenly switch. I also don't think there's any chance that Kentucky is not going to be in President Trump's column next year.
Well, in the contest for state attorney general, Republican Daniel Cameron made history last night. He's the first African-American to be elected on his own to a state office. Chelsea Jones talked with the attorney general-elect about what this means to him and what he plans to do in his new role.
Well, after his historic win, Daniel Cameron is on the move. Today, meeting with state lawmakers as he prepares for his transition as Kentucky's next attorney general.
Daniel.
At 33 years old, Daniel Cameron is the first African-American independently elected to a statewide office. Last night, Cameron told supporters he's ready to serve Kentucky after defeating Democratic challenger Greg Stumbo by more than 220,000 votes.
Who was going to get back to the bread and butter basics of being the chief law enforcement officer.
The election now behind him, Cameron says he's ready to fight the drug epidemic, an issue he focused on during his campaign. He says he's also ready to work with his Democratic predecessor and perhaps soon-to-be governor, Andy Beshear.
Well, I've worked with Andy in the past. We both traveled in the hallways of the same law firm for a couple of years. And so, again, I'll work with whomever wants to help fight the drug epidemic. I know as his time as Attorney General, he certainly focused on this, and so I will continue to work with him. And
Beshear also talked along those lines during his press conference this morning, saying that he's willing to work together and, quote, change the tone. Now, Andy Beshear and Daniel Cameron have both expressed meeting sometime in the future to discuss how Cameron will transition into the role of Attorney General. At the Capitol, Chelsea Jones, WKYT.
Daniel Cameron will be sworn into office in January.
And we haven't seen a cloud in the sky today, but those clouds are going to start to increase tonight, and especially as we head into tomorrow as that cold front moves in. Interstate 75 into London, you see that sun setting with a few more clouds than where we started earlier today. Looking into Whitesburg right now, sun starting to set. 59 degrees, so feeling a little bit on the cooler side. And as we take a look at satellite and radar, you can see those clouds starting to increase. Few rain chances out to our western parts of Louisville, knocking on Lexington's front door. So we could see a few stray rain chances tonight, but the best chance will still be tomorrow. Most of us into about those lower 60s. Some spots already dropping into the 50s. Williamsburg and Harlan, 56 into Prestonsburg, 57 Pikeville, and up into Morehead as well. Now for tonight, we'll drop into about the upper 40s. Clouds increase. Stray chances are possible, but like I said, the best chance is tomorrow for those rain chances. I'll have more on that coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Paige, thank you. A new trial date is set in a Clay County double murder case. Police arrested Gregory Jackson several years ago. In December 2015, police say he shot and killed his parents. Investigators say he also destroyed parts of the crime scene by removing shell casings. The new trial date is set for September 8th of next year. In Leslie County, we now know when a woman charged in a deadly DUI crash will be back in court. Alyssa Noble's trial was delayed earlier this year. She faces murder, assault, and DUI charges in connection with a 2017 crash that killed Paige Hayes. She'll be back in court January 8th. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, the search continues for those responsible for the deaths of 9 American women and children in Mexico.
And those rain chances increase tomorrow, but as we head into the end of the work week into the weekend, remain on the drier side, but cooler side as well. I'll have those details coming up in just a little bit.